Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 45 of the Run to the Hills podcast. This week, we have a chat. Eddie's lost control. This week, we have a chat with Anna Troup, female winner of the Summer Spine Race. Mind you, you couldn't tell it was some of the pictures. And also, she set a new course record. I'm all right. Are you okay, Eddie? You ready to go?
Go before we even started. Just wind back a little bit, listeners. Gary was saying his lips got really dry, so we had to keep drinking when we were recording the podcast. And for some reason, I thought it was really funny to do the actual lip smacking noise as he started recording, and then I found myself hysterical and I couldn't stop. I think it's something to do with the summer holidays that I've got a bit...
Always a pro, Eddie. Always a pro.
I've got hysteria, but
my jaw's aching already. Everyone just
I know, gosh, it's good to laugh. You've got to laugh. You've got to laugh. You've got to cry. I've got we've got the in-laws staying for a week.
Ooh.
First time we've seen them for a year and a half or so.
Yeah.
They've taken the kids out for a little run around, which is bliss.
Yeah.
I only had them for 2 days and they broke me. I actually had a sore throat from shouting so much. If you don't, do you think I want to do this? Do you think I want to do this? So the summer juggle has already started, but it'll be all right. Once the sun starts shining, it'll be all right. It's the fact we've had this like deluge of rain.
That doesn't sound good.
And it's not good because it's not just sort of like rain. It's like if you go outside, you will be like wet to your pants within like 30 seconds.
Ooh.
And it's muddy. And so if I'm like, let's take the dogs out, I know when they come back, I'm going to have to like hose them down.
Oh, I don't like that.
Like most kids, the inability to could you just walk on the path? Oh,
yeah.
Why would you do that when you could actually go through the waist-high river and collect flowers? They're very good, really. So yeah, the juggle's real. And I've already had my low. Hopefully I've had my summer holiday low where I realise that 3 children under 10, a job and trying to train 15 hours a week is a difficult combination. And then I get the Strava rage because I look and see what everyone's doing and I'm like, oh, what have I done?
Eddie.
I know. And then I get the Instagram and I go, right, okay, let this go. 24 hours. We roll with this rage. And then I'm like, right, take a step back. You know, this is all you can do. Make it work. You can't be somebody else. Comparison is the thief of joy. Just do the best you can. Yeah. Be kind to yourself.
It is hard sometimes.
It's hard, isn't it? Because you want to be doing everything. And one of the reasons I gave up my high-flying PE teaching career was because I wanted to bring up my kids. I wanted to bring up my kids and I wanted to do a job that enabled me to do that and to have flexibility. Blah, blah, blah. So I have to remind myself that this is a voluntary...
Oh, my goodness. Every time I start moaning about how tired I am, I'm spinning plates. It's all self-inflicted. Nobody is forcing me. Yeah.
That's exactly what my mum would say. She would say, well, I'm afraid you brought this entirely on yourself.
Yeah.
So, and it's all a privilege.
So no sympathy for any listeners.
Absolutely. But I do always remind myself when the holidays start that you have to change your training a little bit. So you can't, the big volume that I love doing and all the big stuff I love doing when they're at school. And I can sort of manage that because I can lie about a bit for about 20 minutes. Disco naps, which I can't do in the holidays. So I do change my training, shorter sessions. I do a bit more on the bike and I try and just focus on my weaknesses. So like I try and do a little bit more core because I can just do that on the mat. So dull, but get it done and focus as always on what you can do. How are you? You just told me you were a little bit poorly and I said...
Yeah. And then you laughed, a really hard laugh. I am feeling poorly. I think I said to you, I'm just not giving my... 48, I'm not like a spring chicken.
Stop it. You're not 48.
I know it's hard to believe.
Hard to believe with that jawline, Gary.
Yeah. Oh, well, that'll be going soon. I jumped on the scales as well. That's not looking great.
Don't do that. Never do that.
Well, I've only literally, this is not, I can't remember the last time I weighed myself, probably a few months ago. So it's not like I've got some kind of scales issue, but it was heavier than when I last went on the scales, put it that way. But yeah, that's fine. I just don't think I'm giving myself enough time to recover. The Bob Graham round was huge. Then I did, I think I supported a Bob Graham round, and then I supported another Bob Graham for 10 hours through the night. So I lost a whole night's sleep and running for 10 hours on, high fells. Then I've got St. Cuthbert's Way this week, and it's just smashing me.
Yeah, for sure.
And I noticed it actually on leg 3 on previous week on the Bob Graham round, my heart rate was quite high. It was like 130s, 140s, which I didn't want it to be. I was asking Ian Leach, who successfully, well done, Ian. He did his Bob Graham round, so that was good. And his heart rate was a lot lower than that. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, why am I working so hard for this? And I just think,
feel like you were working hard.
Yeah, my breathing was quite heavy. I thought it was like a head cold, but I think I can feel it in my throat and my chest. So it is just a lingering chest infection, but it is what it is.
But you did it. You got him round.
Yeah, it was fantastic. I think he was fast, like everybody's fast on leg 1, sorry. Leg 2, we were okay. Leg 3, we're a little bit slower. But that was pretty, the nav on leg 3, especially at night, it's pretty interesting. And we had Paul Nelson obviously being on the show. My goodness me, he just knew it was amazing. Just this little silhouette. You'd see him kind of darting around the fells, about 100 meters ahead, just kind of wrecking the best lines. And yeah, without Paul Nelson, we might have still been up there running around. It's so much different in the dark, but yeah, that was great. And he left Wasdale, I think, about 2 minutes ahead of schedule. So, and then we saw him kind of flying up Newborough. So for me, that's, from my point of view, job done. He's got there to be in a good shape and a good time to leave Wasdale. And he did it. Successful Bob Graham round. Saw some lovely pictures of him on the steps in Keswick. So yeah, fantastic. I think I've only got one more Bob Graham round support for the rest of the year. Sean Kennedy's coming up in a few weeks. So that's going to be great. I'm on leg 2. Neil and I, another guy, Christian. Well, there's 2 or 3 of us, depends how people's schedules go. So that was that for me, and football was great. Wow, what a result!
What it was great. My 2 oldest wanted to stay up and watch. I was like, okay, right. Well, you're going to need to nap with mummy at lunchtime. Let's all nap. And so they went upstairs for like 10 minutes, and they came downstairs and went, that was a really good sleep. We could definitely stay up and watch football. And then he scored in like 20 minutes, the first 20 minutes. And I was like, do you reckon we're going to win now? And they were like, yeah, can we go to bed?
Oh.
It's late. They're only little.
You're an hour, you're different, aren't you?
We're an hour ahead too, so it was like 9:30, which to them is probably, it feels like midnight to me anyway. But yeah, it was good, wasn't it?
I hope the younger, I think I mentioned earlier, I kind of fell out of love with football maybe about 10 years ago, but I do have some memories that are galvanized in me from Euro 96, Italian 90.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I just hope there's some kids out there that it's just they've got that now, that little, instead of these.
Remember? That's why we were quite like, we'll let them watch it tonight. It will have happened by the time this goes out, but I'll let them watch it because they will remember.
Yeah.
Win or lose.
Positive memories, hopefully.
Positive memories. How are you feeling about this weekend?
Well, I'm not.
Are you in denial? I'm not thinking about it.
I'm just, I don't know what to say, actually. I'm just going to turn up and see how it goes. I was supposed to mention this bit later on, like what I'm going to do training-wise, but this is going to go out on Friday, so it'll all be done. I've decided I'm not going to do any sessions, just easy runs with the dog, maybe some strides, but I just want to try and get there feeling better than I do at the moment. I'm not, like I say, I'm not feeling great. So it'll be what it is. It's simple as that. But yeah. I'm looking forward to it. It's such a great route, and I love the concept of trying to beat the tide. But as a race, I don't want to sound like an idiot because it might go really well, and someone will go, "Oh yeah, you were on the podcast saying this, saying that," and then you go and do really well, age group or something like that.
No, but that will be a good lesson, because sometimes you go into stuff feeling terrible and then you're like, often I start a session and I'm like, I can't, there's absolutely no way I can do this. And then little by little, you sometimes can change the mindset. I think the most important thing for you, is to go into it with a positive mindset. And it'll be what it be. If you feel rubbish, just keep eating, juggle on, talk to some people.
I think if I can shift this chest infection, then it's going to be a much nicer day, put it that way.
You can shift this chest infection. I think if you really feel that bad, you should do it as a mother of children. If
I'm going to do it.
If I put my other hat on, I'd say, man up. It's a little bit of a sore throat. Get it done.
I'm going to turn up. I'll be on the line. Whatever happens after that, we'll see.
I love it.
Results.
Race results. Well, not a race, but Kim Collison beat the 24-hour Munro record, climbing 33 Munros, about 160k and 9,000 meters.
9,000 meters.
9,000 meters.
I saw a little video of him. Must have been the very start, and he really ran quite fast. I know it was the very beginning, but it wasn't this. We've got 24 hours like the Bob Graham round. There was never this mass urgency. He was off out the traps pretty quick. And I suppose you're going for records. That's what.
He must have been moving. He must have been moving at some pace to clock not only 160k but 9,000 meters as well.
Nice, good going.
Kudos.
This week also there was the Chevy Chase Fell Race near me. It's about 20 miles. I've never done it actually. It's really popular. I should do it. It's a very popular local race. And William Robson took the win in 2 hours, 52 minutes and 9 seconds. And Frances Dembele was the first lady in 3:49.28. Hopefully I've pronounced that right, Frances. I did notice actually the 124 men finished the race and 43 ladies finished the race. So come on, ladies. Let's get that more 50-50. That'll be awesome.
Endure 24. Have you ever done a 24-hour lap race, Gary?
No, I'd love to.
Would you?
Yeah, try.
If I was going to do one, I'd probably want to do one like Endure 24, which is off-road, bit of a longer lap.
Yeah.
Than a track one. Ching Yang won the men's entry with 24 laps, and Elizabeth Nahn was hot on his heels.
Yeah. With
23 laps.
Yeah. I didn't check actually the kind of split between male and female with that. I should have done see what the stats are there. But Gareth Pritchard, I just interviewed Gareth yesterday. It's all a blur, Eddie. It was yesterday. And he still is the course record holder with 135 miles in total. So that's good going. And he did say it was quite a traily lap. And when we put the interview out, we'll share this with us. But he was walking the ups from the off. That was his tactic. And still, smashed it. Well done.
Last week, we had the privilege of catching up with Anna Troup, the winner of the Summer Spine, second place overall and first lady. And it was fascinating to hear about the level of detail. And we laughed a lot. Well, Anna and I laughed like hyenas throughout, and poor Gary tried to get some sensible questions in, but we laughed a lot at the level of detail and preparation that her and her partner Richard went into this race. And I'm absolutely sure that had a lot to do with her successful attempt, but it's all about her journey, how it didn't pan out as she thought that it would, and how she coped with that adversity, all with a smile and with such a positive attitude. And she made it sound like it was really just a walk around her local park. So here is our chat with the wonderful Anna Troup.
We'd like to welcome Anna Troup to the show. Anna is fresh from coming second overall and first female in the Summer Spine Race with a super fast time of 80 hours, 28 minutes and 35 seconds, breaking Sabrina Vigi's women's course record by 52 minutes. I think that's correct. Where are you, Anna? How are you? And have you been for a run today?
I'm very well, thank you. And yes, I have been for a run today. I got Richard out first thing this morning, and we trotted along our local Henley stretch for about 6 miles on the flat. But we were out there. Yeah, no, it was good. It was really nice to be out there again.
Oh,
Well, randomly, I ran on Sunday and I bumped into Carla Molinaro, who's training for her race up in the lakes. So I've never met her before, and I was just out going, no, it's a recovery run. And I ended up taking her on the end of her run. So actually, I've been out twice, quietly, twice.
Oh. I used to live in your neck of the woods. When I first graduated, I lived in Sunningdale and then Ascot. So it's not too far away from
no.
you. And could you share with our listeners a bit about your running journey before the Summer Spine Race?
So I suppose I came at it via a rowing background and then a triathlon background. And as so many of us find, once you have small people, running is just the best thing because you can kind of fit it in around your life. So that's really how I started running. I'd been a lightweight rower, and it was kind of a helpful thing to keep your weight down to do some running. You just had to do a bit extra when you were a tall lightweight. So that was me out there slogging away. But apart from that, I suppose the running piece really, I've never been particularly quick. And the trail running piece really took off when Richard and I got back together. We'd known each other at university and got back together about 12 years ago. And we decided we wanted something to do together. And the UTMB, sort of Richard's idea was, well, let's do a UTMB. And we knew absolutely zero about trail running. And trying to get into the UTMB when you know nothing is really hard because you're deciphering websites and you're looking at stuff and points. And we had no idea what we're doing. So it's easier back then because we finally got our UTMB place in 2014. And in 2014, anyone could get in really. Now it's really hard, but back then it was just quite straightforward. You put your entry in. And we went off and we did Hardmoors, and we turned up at the start total novices, and everyone was like, oh, is this your first trail run? And we're like, well, yeah, well. Lots of local boys who knew that stuff inside out and thought we were totally bonkers. And I remember us going up a hill and it was really muddy, and we're like, it's really muddy, is this normal? So that was our introduction. I had most of the house on my back because I didn't want to get cold. Everyone had said, oh, hypothermia, so there I was with gazillions of layers. It was just an amazing experience. 17 hours later, I think it was, we finally crossed the line and we were both so excited. I mean, Richard, who doesn't do excitement, was really excited. I was really excited. And it sort of went from there. Then we did the Lakeland Trails thing, which got us the rest of the points. And then off we went to UTMB. And it sort of went from there. And we just carried on training and having quite a few adventures and quite a lot of fun. Over time, it's become clear I'm just better when it's a bit more tricky. Yeah. Not scrambling. I'm really bad at scrambling, but anything that's sort of in between flat and sky racing is probably where I'm better. And so we've just done more of that. And I basically said to Richard for my 50th birthday present, I really want to do the spine. But my birthday present is I want you to do the entry and I want you to do the planning. And that was how we set it all up. And then we got COVID happened and everything got postponed and we missed the winter entry because I think we were racing Arc of Attrition when the entries came out. So we missed all that and we didn't think we were going to get a place. And then we did, and we were on the Summer Spine, and that's how it all happened. So Richard did all the planning because that was the deal. And he was meant to be running it with me. And there we go.
I saw a tweet from the Summer Spine featuring you, and it just said it looked like nothing phased you over the few days. But yeah, how did it go? I imagine things did phase you. I'm really interested to see your kind of perspective on the race.
I was really phased before we started just by, I don't think you can get your head around. It's 268 miles. That is just, I don't know anyone who can just go, oh yeah, 268 miles. I was thinking, I don't know what that feels like, looks like. And so that really fazed me. Yeah. It also fazed me when everyone took off like it was a 10K. And I was like, oh my God, we're going to be so far off the back here. I didn't see them again. I was like, oh my God. Then the next thing that fazed me is it was sort of the first sort of 20, 30 miles. And we're sort of coming across people slowly. And I'm like, how many, what have you done? Oh, I've done 150. I just thought I'd enter. I'm like, really? Wow, that's a punchy call. What time are you aiming for? Oh, I don't know. Wow. So I think that towards that incident, we were passing people who I think, had gone into it even more fresh-faced than we were. So I think once I got into my pace and just did my thing, I stopped feeling like we were racing and more like we were just out there for an adventure, which was a much nicer place to be. Then the next really big bit of phasing was going up Penny Ghent when I realised that Richard was starting to struggle. And we've seen this before. His heart just says, I'm not playing anymore. And therefore his legs don't quite get the oxygen they need. And at that point, it was like, okay, at some point we might have to make a decision, but cross fingers, he's okay. Yeah. And when he fainted at hard draw at checkpoint 2, it was like, okay, he's not okay. Now I have to do something about this. And it's really difficult because you know he might come back or he might not come back. And he was saying, go on. And I'm going, it's the middle of the night and I don't do nav. And I've got to go up over Shanafell, and that could be a bit tricky. Not to mention the fact that you were meant to be doing all the charging. You have got all the cables.
It's my birthday.
So the spine organisers were great. They kind of went off to one side as there was this clear domestic quietly going on in the middle of their checkpoint. You should carry on. So this did go on for quite a while, as anyone who has been in a relationship can imagine. At which point, in the end, I said, okay, I'll carry on. And he sort of chucked charges at me. And I thought, well, that's fine. I've got lots of charges now. And of course, later on, he had no charges.
Oh, my goodness.
So all of our great planning went straight out the window. And then the next big mistake I made was everyone said it's really cold up there, really cold. And if you're going to be walking with Richard, you need loads of kit on. So by now I'm covered in kit. I've got puffer jackets on, I've got leggings on, I've got everything on. Look like I'm dressed for the Arctic. And I head up Shanafell. And of course, within 5 minutes, then 10 minutes, then 15 minutes, rucksack off, rucksack.
Oh, so annoying that.
It's so annoying. It's a Salomon rucksack, and I'm desperately trying to stuff kit in, and it was already full, and now it's bursting. You can't quite.
And you're like, how much sweat can I take before I take this rucksack off? And then eventually it starts coming up out of the. You'd have to take everything off.
Okay, so you've been there, Eddie. You know that feeling.
Oh, I hate that hot when you're like, it's cold. I'm going to put the coat, but by putting that coat on, you're like, I know I'm going to have to. But then you're like, but then maybe a nice stop would be nice in about 10 minutes. So when you made the decision that you were going to carry on, did you then get some feedback when you were out on the course that Richard was okay and he actually rallied quite well, didn't he?
I got a text at some point from Richard himself that said,
okay.
So what he said was,
did it have kisses or did it have like angry emojis?
No. Just said it's a bit too early to check out or to drop out at checkpoint 2. So I'm going to carry on and drop out at checkpoint 3. Although he claims he didn't say drop out, and I haven't been back to check. So I think he just got into his head. He had so much time. He may as well just walk it out. And then I think once he got to checkpoint 3 and was starting to feel better, and then he managed to just, as you know, carry on running and come in 7th, which was extraordinary. So it was an amazing, they called him Lazarus at the end. Oh, look, Lazarus.
I loved all the Montane hashtags. Someone hasn't had much to do during COVID and was so happy to be back doing social media.
I know.
Can I rewind a little bit? We do want to go into the nitty gritty of the race, but can I rewind a little bit and go back to your training? Because I love following you on Strava and the absolute specifics that you do. I presume now, having talked to you, that Richard does all this planning for the training. But can you talk a little bit about your training leading into the race and what you did specifically to get yourself ready? Because I think as a couple and like standing on that start line, you were as prepared as you could ever be to tackle that race.
Probably. I mean, I don't think. Yeah. I mean, I think something you
can always do more, can't you? You always feel you can do more, but.
Yeah, I'm not sure actually at our age whether we could do more. I think we fall apart actually. But as you know, Eddie, I had a broken heel. And I broke the front of my heel bone going into lockdown, had no idea, carried on messing around on it till June, then got the MRI and they went, oh no, that's a big stress fracture. Thou shalt stop. So at that point I did stop, but I kept coming back probably a little too early, probably because the medics also don't know when it's mended and the physios also don't know when it's mended, and they just sort of say, well, if it hurts a bit, that's fine. Is it a 2? Is it a 3?
The worst thing to say to a runner, if it hurts, it's fine. It's like, well, okay, can run on a broken foot.
Come January, I had another MRI because I was so fed up and it was still broken. So I then said, right, I'm not doing anything on it till April. So now we're April before this June. So really it's only been 3 months of a mended heel bone. So over that whole period, I was on a turbo. And I mean, brilliant. Richard did it all with me. Turbos are desperate. And we just sit on our watt bikes and, he got me a watt bike and we just literally sat on watt bikes for an hour and a half, watching TV, watching films, watching podcasts, doing our research for our podcast. We did a lot of that. And it was just desperate. It was so tedious. I hate sitting on a bike. My bottom was really sore for ages. Got over that. And then, I mean, I suppose I tried to get some pleasure in watching my watts go up, but really it's not that exciting for me. And I did a lot of weights. I did 3 sets of heavy weights a week, heavy for me. And I think that probably really helped. And then as soon as my foot felt up to it, we built the walking. And because we thought we might get to do the winter spine, we were planning on just hiking it. So we were doing out there all winter with big packs. And we slowly built it from 20 miles to 20 miles back to back to 30 miles on the 20 miles. And we slowly built those back to backs, and we had the time, and it was lockdown. So we were in the middle of nowhere, and we could do that without seeing anyone. Kids were safely at home, ensconced on video schooling. Perfect. So we were like, right, off we go. So I suppose
how much weight did you carry in those backpacks? Because they looked big.
I reckon there were 10 kilos at least.
Okay. I thought of you because when I carried my backpack last week, and I think it was about 8.5, 9 kilos, and I was like, and I always looked at your Strava and thought they look like they're having a really nice time. That looks really nice. And then actually, when I was carrying that weight, I was like, oh, this is actually really rubbish, because even when you try and run, it's quite a lot. Yeah, and so we didn't try and run when they were really big, and I suppose, but even spine summer packs, by the time they're fully loaded with water and food and everything else you need for 40 or 50 miles, you are looking at 5 or 6K. You just really can't get it much below that with the essential kit. And we don't skimp on the essential kit, so we have it. So yeah, I don't think there's any way around it. You just run badly. But I think the hiking is a really great way of training. You're just on your feet. Oh, I've got a stand-up desk. I'm at my stand-up desk. I wondered if you were standing up. You were putting me and Gary to shame. You looked like you were.
It means I can shuffle.
Do you think that makes a difference?
Well, I mean, you're going to be on your feet 24 hours a day if you're going to do something like that. So it has to, in my mind, make a difference. And also, again, it's probably age, but hip flexors, everything starts to hurt if we sit down for long chunks of time.
Oh my goodness me, yes.
Yeah. So I think just doing anything we could to avoid feeling injured. I mean, it didn't stop us feeling injured. We just constantly niggled, but the standing up desk has been really great from that perspective. I would recommend that for anyone who feels hip flexor, glutes, anything else. You know.
I know when I stand up after this interview, I'll be like stepped off for about 5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. That's us.
Did you do any running leading into the spine, or was it all walking training?
We did do some. If you find on Strava, I think what you'll find is that we started to do spine pace running.
Okay.
As opposed to let's go out and run fast. I think there's about 2 fast runs that I would consider fast, that start with a 7 or an 8 on the minute miles. You know, literally 2. The rest of them are all what I would call plods, and often mixing in the running and the walking, or we're just managing heart rate. And so it was pretty all like that. Nothing speedy at all. I know when I read David Roche, and I've been reading what Damien Hall and John Kelly do, it's all about running economy and speedy stuff. And I'm thinking, okay, we didn't do any of that.
But everybody's different. Everybody's body works differently. Everyone trains differently, but everybody gets the start and finish. And it's just the way we saw that Western States, didn't we? I mean, you can be the 24-hour world record holder and fall apart on the day. So you've got to do what works for you. And clearly, you've got a nice little magic formula there.
The poodle.
You mentioned pacing. I was just really curious how you decide on the specifics of your pacing, your racing strategies, nutrition.
So on pacing, we do this before every big race. Richard, because he's the spreadsheet king, goes off and downloads everything he can possibly find around data from previous races.
Oh,
and
I need Richard in my life.
Oh my God, I couldn't do without Richard in my life. It's brilliant. And then he says, and the record's X. So we always go, okay, well, if the record's X, we're clearly not going to get the record. So now we need to dial it back. And because often when you look at these races, you go, really? 4 miles an hour? How hard can it be? It's got to be straightforward. Come on. And then Richard goes, and the record is at 3.3 miles an hour. Oh, okay. And that's Jasmine. Okay. Right. It's okay. It's a bit tough. So what we always start with that, and then we look at the pacing, and then we look at how that's all played out. And Richard on this one particularly also looked at how long people were spending in checkpoints, where they were spending the time, at the front of the field as well as further back. So he did quite a lot of analysis. What we really noticed was that people were going off really fast and then really fading. And that was quite interesting, because when you look at 24-hour tracks, and that guy I should know his name, but the guy's just won done the 100 miles.
Alexandra Storkin.
That's the one.
Yeah.
And he was absolutely metronomic to the point he could carry on. And so So we're like, well, why would that be any different? Why would you go out hard and fade as opposed to being consistent?
Yeah.
We also know that I get very, very sick if I let my heart rate go off the scale. And therefore, by definition, a steady pacing was going to work better for me. We'd learned that over previous years. And it was like, right, okay, going off fast is not going to be the way for us. So let's look at a steady pace. So that's a long way of saying we came to our pace by thinking, what can we realistically want to complete in? And we said 80 to 100 hours. We've got no idea. That's a big chunky difference, but let's say roughly in there. And then let's work it back. And realistically, if you can hold 4 miles an hour, then you've done well.
Yeah.
And let's go with that as a maximum pace off the start. And when we'd done the recce's and we had recce'd the whole course, we tried it and with packs and said, okay, that's doable, but my God, we're broken at the end of each day. How are we going to do it back to back? And we really were broken. And we just kept saying, okay, well, we'll just have to suck it and see, but no more than 4 miles an hour, and keeping the heart rate for me at a very sensible below aerobic threshold. And the great thing about turbos, you know all about where your levels are. Yeah. so that was the background to that. So there was no racing strategy, but there was a pacing strategy, if that makes sense. And it was just survival. It was.
That's amazing discipline, though. I think I've never gone as kind of same distance as the spine, but say every 100 miler, it seems to have just go as fast as I can, thinking it's really easy for about 40 miles, then wondering why my legs are screaming. And then you start walking and it's like the tide going out and people are going past you. It's quite depressing. But to have that discipline, I might try that, Eddie. What do you think?
I think you might need Richard in your move Richard into your house first. Yeah,
you need him behind you going, what's your heart rate? What's your heart rate? Are you sure your heart rate's low enough? All the way up Jacob's ladder.
Did you manage to keep that when you lost him, or did it all become a little bit of I'm slightly going into survival now, and you had to obviously concentrate more on the nav and on your terrain? But did you keep that idea of that pacing strategy?
I think by then, I mean, I don't know if you've seen this, but your heart rate basically gives up at some point.
Well, I think also I often find I have great intentions for the first half of a mega long race. And I think actually having that discipline in the first half will then naturally carry you through for a better second half. So you don't need to focus on it so much, because by then you're just into your you can't go any faster in that second half, can you? I mean, and your grit will get you through at the speed that your body is going to allow, basically.
That's right. And then I think in the second half, I just went into what I would call ultra mode, which is you just don't let yourself walk if you can run.
Yeah.
And it's that sort of, right, okay, it's a bit flat now. Come on. So it was that.
Is there anyone? No. Oh, okay. Let's start again.
Yeah, we've all been there. So it was very much that, and also use the poles to keep skipping along, and if I didn't really feel like I'm running, make sure I was skipping. But also being a bit sensible, because I don't know, along a riverbank, for example, you've got lots of roots, lots of stones, you can waste so much energy trying to run over that. And actually, when you're in a late race like the Spine, you're not going to go that much quicker. Right. So it was like making the decision, okay, I'm just going to be safe over here. Yeah. And then when it's a bit easier, I'm going to run, but not trying to waste a ton of energy jumping over things, lifting my legs up as high as I could possibly could. It's that sort of stuff where it was that approach. So no, I wasn't disciplined in the second half, but I didn't need to be. I think your body just gives up and you just have to go with the flow. Then it was just about eating, napping, getting lost, napping, getting lost again.
How did the eating go, though? It's such a long time. Did you have any kind of food intolerance?
Well, I've done so many of these things where I've just either thrown up and done it on nothing, or it was anything I can keep down. It's like, yes. No, I went for. I've done loads of home baking. It's really sad. As Eddie would have seen on Strava, there are sort of bucket loads of scones and brownies, which Richard can eat his way through. Oh my
goodness, mate, that sounds great.
Who wants to move into the Troup household?
Bread treats and scones, yeah.
The other side of this is we had a kitchen for a week full of different items, seeing what went off first, because it's got to live in your bag for a week, potentially. So it's like, the thing of cottage cheese, that's quite disgusting after a few days, and maybe not bad.
Whose idea was the cottage cheese? No.
Moist, easy, high protein. I was all over it, Eddie. I thought it would be great. But no, it was really
day one food.
No. So it was really about what's going to survive out of the bag. and is not just yet another bar. And funny enough, homemade scones, bread pudding last really well.
This is amazing prep. I'm like so impressed by all of this.
Oh yes,
what it takes, Gary. This is what it takes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Gary, Richard had pieces of paper all over the house with how quickly different head torches ran down, how long they lasted on different settings, how long it took to charge them up. I kid you not, we have all that data. And then, of course, he wasn't there to do it.
You could put this in a book. Is Richard ex-military by any chance?
No, he's just...
Oh, gosh, this is incredible. That's wasted. It's wasted on that. I just imagine my husband going, that's far too much light. Turn it down. Oh, it's a tree.
I can't see. And also, I'm always in front. So it really matters that I can see. And then I'm turning around going, why have you got your light off? He's going, well, I don't need it on. You're in front. No wonder yours lasts longer. So, yeah.
Did you take anything like Tailwind or Mountain Fuel, or was it all, no, it was all...
I can't do any of it. I had bottles of, you know, that elderflower squash stuff. Well, I had the lemon and ginger version of whatever that really sweet elderflower squash is. And as the race went on, it got more and more and more dilute in terms of what I could actually manage. And then I just literally ended up on plain scones with raisins in them. That was really what I could get down. Bread pudding to start with, and then just plain scones with raisin. And then the odd banana at aid stations. And then they fed you at aid stations. Really weird times of day that you got curry and they chose some really interesting things. If someone handed me chickpea stew, I was thinking, that's going to be exciting to run on. I'm glad I'm on my own.
I bet it was like heaven, though, those hot meals.
Yeah, it was really, really nice. And of course, I just got really looked after because I was on my own in aid stations. So it was a really special experience because people were just there. And as a mum of teens, it's like no one ever asks, oh, what can we do for you?
Can I make you a cup of tea?
Really,
like...
Can we get you something? Oh, really? Yeah, yes, we can. That'd be amazing. So
sounds like my life.
So yes, so that's the aid stations were brilliant from that perspective. Really great, and the food was great. And I mean, we didn't need that much, fun enough. You just needed enough to get you out the door and get you on again.
You obviously, I'm a bit scared to ask this actually because I dread to think what Richard did. But can you tell us? Can you tell us a little bit? I know you said when we talked about you coming on the podcast that you were like, oh, I just would love to share the kit and the things that we did, because you obviously researched and looked and tried to find as much information before you went out as possible about kit. I think the summer spine is different to the winter spine, isn't it? And that kit list is slightly less dramatic. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about your kit testing, what worked, what didn't work, what your learnings were.
So I think for summer spine and winter spine, there are some stuff that is the same. So it's like the hard mug and the bivvy bag, and although you're allowed a lighter bag when it comes to summer. So a lot of it's quite similar and it's all essential. So, I mean, I think we saw that on this summer spine. It's there for a reason and people needed it all the way through. So we did do quite a lot of research. I think the key things for us, for me anyway, and I think for a lot of women I speak to, hands get really cold. And once they're wet, you can't physically get them in your gloves. That's really... Now, anyone who's done loads of outdoor stuff probably knows that. It hadn't really dawned on me that once my hands were wet, I was going to struggle to get them into gloves, even for the summer. We found those big Montane, just waterproof over mittens were amazing, because you could literally just shove your hands in those because they were really wide and easy, and they kept the wind off and they kept the water off. And in summer, that was mostly enough. So you could get these out. And then I found the Innovate ones with the fleecy insides, which were very, very light. So between those two, I had both those pairs with me, with my grand plan that when I got drenched and if I got really cold, I'd have one set inside the other set.
Yeah.
Richard is constantly got his hands out, but I think he just doesn't feel the same level of cold. For the winter, I found the nano puffs. There's a big set of nano puffs that Patagonia do, amazing, and they fit inside the Montane waterproofs.
I'm a nano puff fan.
Yeah, huge. So that was an absolute winner on gloves, but I really recommend people to mess with gloves, because the time you need them is the time they don't go on your hands.
So important.
I think I mentioned in a previous podcast when I was doing a recce on the Bob Graham round, I stopped eating because I didn't want to take my hands out of the gloves because I couldn't get them back in and it was so cold and wet. And it's fantastic advice. Our listeners, my goodness me, take care of your hands or get a pair of gloves that you can get back on, because it'll just kind of could potentially wreck your event.
Oh, completely, because then you do stop eating, and then once you stopped eating, it's all, or drinking, it all goes downhill pretty quickly. I think the other thing we really worked around was rucksacks. We tried everything, but ultimately for the summer spine, we came back to our classic Salomon, usual, ultra rucksack. A, because they stretch a lot, but B, because we were used to the pockets.
Yeah.
And being able to access everything really, really quickly for us made a massive difference. So I think for me, being able to have 2 bottles, Richard had, I don't know, all sorts of chargers and stuff coming out of his, and, you know, everything in the back, food just accessible without having to stop, made a really big difference. I think it makes a big difference to time. So I think finding a rucksack that works for you, messing with it and knowing what you're going to need out of it, because you won't want to keep stopping. So that was really key for us. It sounds random, but the biggest purchase for us was cyclochromatic lenses for our sunglasses. Now, how it sounds bonkers, but at night, you didn't want to be putting goggles on and you've got your head torch, but also having any wind on your eyes, and especially like me, you wear contact lenses, you just wanted your eyes to stay, you know, okay. And that was brilliant, because my eyes never got sore. I only changed my contact lenses once, but it did mean that my eyes were in good shape all the way through.
What are those? I don't understand that word about the lenses. What are they? Are they like a tinted lens?
Well, they're the ones that go clear or they go to dark.
Oh, okay.
The children were so horrified. I didn't know. Yes. Oh my God, you've got old woman lenses.
I didn't want to say, but I was about to say, oh, that's what my dad wears.
Yeah, that's what your dad wears. And they were like, you're so embarrassing. I was like, I know I'm so embarrassing. I know, but it's brilliant. And we actually got the idea, because in the winter spine, you have to have full goggles.
Yes.
But they're quite uncomfortable, and we couldn't see ourselves wearing them in the summer.
And you can't breathe properly in goggles. So, like, put the pressure on your nose, isn't it? If I have to ski something really hard, I take them off because I feel like it constricts my blood flow to my nose.
So that they were winners, and just, or whatever anyone wants to wear to protect eyes was
because your eyes get so sore from the constant air. I mean, and I know when I've done big things, my eye, they swell up so much. So, but you looked fresh faced at the finish. So it's obviously.
Well, I think it was the old lady lenses. It was genius.
And what about your feet? What did you wear on your feet?
I wore the deck shell waterproof socks, which I had trained in, which does mean you need to go up a size in shoes because they are quite thick.
They're really popular.
They are. I just like them. Well, your little feet come out looking pink as opposed to looking black, peaty, nasty that takes a week to get the mud out. You know, that for me was the bonus. I think sometimes they do let in the water, actually, but they don't let in the mud. So my feet were in relatively good shape, and I really like those.
What's the texture like? My experience with waterproof socks they're not really the most comfortable thing to put on your feet. Are these a better material?
They've got bamboo on the inside, you know, that sort of soft cottony bamboo. So they are quite nice on the inside. And Eddie will appreciate this. I put chamois cream on my feet.
I'm so proud. I'm so proud.
I suddenly thought, well, if you're going to wear it on a turbo, why wouldn't you put it on your feet?
I put it everywhere. I am not ashamed. I don't share the cream. What about trainers?
Well, I did what you're not meant to do and change towards the end.
Yes, I wondered that if you did.
I did. I went to the Innovate Trail Flies. So the reason my heel bones are broken on both feet over time is not because of running, it's because I have a coalition. So the bones in the arch of my feet don't move as they should, as smoothly as they should. So when your left foot lands, most people's will sort of do that. Mine doesn't. It just, so this pressure just goes straight through the front of the heel bone. So over time, you can get unlucky.
Yeah.
It does mean I can't do zero drop. I need to have some sort of drop to take the pressure off, because you can imagine if you're like this all the time, you're just bouncing straight onto it. And so it does limit me in terms of what I can wear. And mutants, I had been using the Sportiva mutants. I had used ASICS, but then ASICS changed their design and went to an anti-pronation. They all do this. It's just like staying neutral.
Mad. The Corny Peregrine did the same too. They had the best shoe. They brought out the next range. It's like a completely different trainer. I honestly, I'll get the total rage about it.
So annoying. So then I tried the Jackal, which was great, but again, it's quite cushioned. And then I just thought, right, I'll try these Innovate trail flies, probably because they're the most expensive thing I've seen on the market ever. I thought at 170 quid, they've got to be good. So, I know they're scary expensive, but they have this hugely wide toe box, which was really great, because I think I read Debbie Martin Consani's blog, and she said, look, your feet don't grow in these races lengthwise, they grow widthwise. I was like, oh yeah, that's a really good point. It's the width, not the length. So people talk about getting these shoes up a size, but actually you just need shoes and to size.
Yeah. They should market like post 50 miles shoes for another £100 that widen naturally. So did you put the same trainer, just change to the same trainer? Just a new pair?
I just wore one pair in the end through the race. I had two in my drop bag. Okay. I just didn't actually change into them. I did have a different pair. I had Jackals just in case my feet got sore. I thought, at least if you've got a rubbage, you want something different to put on, but I didn't actually use it. Because that's something I wish I'd known ahead of time, in as much as you've only got 20 kilos to play with.
Well, that's my next question, is what the devil do you put in that drop bag?
Well, what you don't do is 5 sets of change of kit, because you're planning to have a shower at every checkpoint, which was me.
You didn't.
I did.
Did you change your kit at all?
I put some leggings on, and I sort of threw a flannel at myself at Middleton just to make myself feel better.
Because did they ask you, were they like, do you want a shower? And you were like, not really, but I'm going to pretend.
No, I walked in and said, I'd really want a shower. And they said, I'm really sorry, it's broken. I was like, you've got to be kidding. So I was planning all these showers. I had a really nice little, box with lots of nice smelly things in to feel really female, but no. So I really wouldn't be planning on any of that. And I don't think even if I was wet, I'd have done much changing. I might have changed briefly and then put wet kit back on to go out the door. I wouldn't. So that would have saved me probably 10 kilos, I would guess. Because it was a very large bag.
A lot of shower gel.
Oh yeah, shower gel, shampoo, conditioner, you name it, I had it. Yes, it's embarrassing now, Eddie, yeah.
I'm laughing with you. So,
and then I had these 3 pairs of shoes, and that actually was too many, and that's weight. So they could have come out. Then food itself is heavy, so you need to know what you want, and any squashes or something that you want. That way. The thing for us that was genius that we managed to squidge in with the Starbucks double espressos in a can.
Oh yeah.
They were really great, because they actually do fit in your rucksack. They're not that heavy, and when you feel like a treat, bit of caffeine, bit of sugar, all in one go, they were really, really good. Really good.
Clear of you out there having a Starbucks.
I thought, what if I don't like their coffee, Eddie? What? I'm an espresso girl, and maybe it's instant. No, it was really great having those, because they were just a treat. Just when you needed it, and they were something I hadn't read enough about is your mouth gets really sore. I ended up with these spots on my tongue really quite early. It's like, oh, nutritional deficiencies, marvelous.
It's scary how quick that kicks in, and then how much that must be how people die of like malnutrition, isn't it? First, is that they can't actually. I remember when I ran with Dan on his Le Jog record, his mouth. His ulcers were like, it was just horrendous. Okay. And that was a few days in. So that's something for people to think about if they're thinking about doing this. And also not to be frightened of it if it happens, because
it's probably going to happen. And have at hand a lip balm. Because the problem is, if you don't slather your mouth and lip balm, very attractive, you think you're thirsty all the time. So it leads into this awful sort of, I must be thirsty.
Licking your lips and then...
Yeah, and then you've been there, and then you want to drink something, but actually you've only got a certain amount of water, and you don't really need to drink something. And so it's this awful circle. So lip balm, high up on the list of things to have in that bag.
Lip balm, your chaffing cream. Wash and your espresso, and you're good to go.
And your Joe Malone, just in case.
just as you get.
I've gone from thinking, I wouldn't mind having a go at this spine race, to no way, no.
Yeah, Gary's just sitting there going, you girls, another
another world. We did have a heavy waterproof in our kit bags as well, and I'm really glad we did, because I think So one of the things Rich and I have discussed since is, I think if you're at the front and you're doing it in roughly 80 hours, you'll get away without sleeping. And you will. And most people do. You get away with that half-hour kip, those naps. Richard really suffered with that extra almost day, and he ended up kipping by the side of the road, falling asleep on his feet, all the stuff that didn't impact me. And I think that's just a time thing. I think that's a human being thing after a certain point in time. So I think if you don't know where you're going to be, I would have a sleeping bag in my drop bag, just a light sleeping bag, because it's bloody freezing and it's really cold. So sleeping was quite tough, because you kind of think aid station warmth, but actually it wasn't. Most of them were quite cold. There was one that was
how much sleep did you have, Anna?
2 half-hour naps.
Okay. Whereabouts, when in the race did you have those?
So I did the first one at Middleton. I was planning Tan Hill, got to Tan Hill, and the guys went, "Oh, that's just in the winter." That's a bummer. Right.
Oh, no.
So then it's light, you just push on. And so it was half an hour at Middleton, where I did freeze, and I don't think I had probably more than 20 minutes, and it was cold. And then I had another half hour at Alston. And then it was just a case of, I need to get on, because I just don't want to be out there napping in the dark. So that was the reason. Just get on with it. And I didn't need any more. I was fine. I mean, you were hallucinating for the last 2 days. I mean, without question, constantly, it's just genius. It's not real, but you're still quite staring at things in Kill the Forest going, wow, amazing wood sculpture, and you're really inspecting it, and you're actually having a really good look. And it didn't strike me till later that it actually isn't wood sculpture. It really is.
There is some kind of psychedelic sculptures in Kill the Forest. it might have been actually there.
So it was all really weird. And anyway, there was lots of people that weren't there, and it was very disappointing, because I like people and there were no people. And but I think you get used to that, and then you just push on and get to the end. For me, it was like, get off this bloody hill before the dark comes even more than it is now. I just need to get down.
And have you got anything else planned? What's next?
Lakeland 100 is 3 weeks' time.
Oh, I'll see you there. I'm not racing, but I'll be on course with a cowbell, maybe. Yeah.
Ring it loudly. Yeah. Well, hopefully I will be on course. That's the first thing. Will I make it on the course? Will I stay on the course? Lakeland 100. And then we've got Dragons Back, which we put in the diary ages ago. We've just postponed TDS, because we just said we may or may not get there, and COVID is all a bit stressful, and let's just postpone it to another year, and make it part of our plans as opposed to an extra. So that's it. So that's it for the year, I think, at the moment.
Awesome.
What will you do between now and Lakeland 100? There must be a plan on the wall.
No, there's no plan on the wall. I will do not too much for the next 8-10 days, and then I'll probably do a decent week. And then actually what we thought we'd do is get out and recce as much of the Dragons Back as we can in the next few weeks. So it'll be more back to that hiking, low impact, turbos, not just worry about it too much. I kind of will plan on the fact that super compensation will kick in.
Yeah, in 10 days, you'll be like, wow!
And then I'll be just time for some tapering. So I just need to make sure that we do stuff in about 5 days' time. We do a decent block, and then we can just taper again, and that will be fine. But I'm just going to have a nice time. It'll be fun to see everyone. It's the lakes, it's always a great event. So
can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
And then Gary, you can ask the 5 quick questions, because I'm aware I've asked a lot of questions. How have you found you were our most requested guest to come onto the podcast as soon as you finished? There was lots of messages going, you must be friends with Anna, Eddie, please get her on the podcast. I want to hear all about it. But could you just tell us a little bit about, as an older lady from an older lady, we're not old because we're only as old as we feel, and we feel like in our 20s, don't we?
We just don't look like that, Eddie. No one looks at us like we are like that anymore.
Can you tell me a little bit about your sporting pedigree you've got a lot of endurance for years and years and years, but how has training changed as you've got that little bit older? How's the training changed? Maybe how's the recovery changed? Have you done anything different? Because you're obviously still achieving incredible results, and you're an inspiration to older women with teenage children, that you can still go out and do all this. So is there anything that you do like differently now that works, that perhaps might inspire somebody else?
I would definitely now keep the weights. I mean, I think it's written all over the place. Old ladies should do strength weights. There's no question about it. I hate it. It's boring. It's not my thing. But without doubt, I think it makes a difference. So that strength and conditioning, as she says, pointing at her stomach, that sort of that core, because the minute you put a rucksack on, it's doing this. And I think all of us underestimate the impact of a rucksack on our joints and tendons. For most of us, it's about 10% of our body weight, one of those big chunky rucksacks. Yeah. That's quite a lot. And I'm really surprised none of the coaches that we sort of look at and follow and read about are talking about the impact of rucksack weight on women. I'm not saying we should have lighter rucksacks. I'm not saying we should carry less. I think it's all really key, but it does have an impact. So I think the strength weights idea are really important. I think accepting that you're older, which is just rubbish. And to your point, we don't. And understanding that unlike a teen, when they fall over and they cut themselves and within 5 minutes it seems to have healed up, for us, if we do get damaged, it takes a really, really long time to mend. So it's almost better not to get damaged in the first place. But it's that sort of mental side of, but I'm not really old, I'm sure I'm fine. And actually we're not fine, and we need to sort of take that time. So we're great mates with our foam rollers. We have foam rollers all over the house. We have mats all over the house. We do that. And we're constantly devouring any research on what you can do. So, feet strengthening exercises I've started to do because I feel that that's quite important. Richard spends a load of time on his hip flexor stuff and core stuff because that's where he's weak. So I suppose it's understanding where you're weak. Yeah. And making sure you don't neglect it, because it's the first thing we all do. It's like, oh, that feels a bit uncomfortable, so I won't do that. We now try and go to a physio for rehab as well as prehab. So we don't try and leave it. It's very tempting not to bother. Oh, I'm fine, so I won't bother. Well, that's where you should be going, really. And so we're trying to spend the money, if you like, on doing that and making that investment in ourselves, because it's a better investment than the MRIs that come later.
And I think as well, like having a relationship with your physical therapist who will know your body, that if there is something then off, they will pick it up almost before you do. And then if you do have niggles, something, they know your body. And so it's not having to go and initiate a relationship with someone when you're broken and you don't know if you trust them and, there's nothing. So I back that. Yes.
So I was just going to say, our physio is so great as well, because both of us turned up the week before racing, went, this hurts and this hurts and this hurts. And he went, you're fine. Yeah. It's going to hurt. Just get out there. You're totally fine. It's not going to break. Okay.
You just need that as well. But they're hard to find. I know that people find it's hard to find a physio that's understanding to what we do with our bodies. And but if you do find a good one, they're gold dust.
It's all part of I know there's a lot of expense involved with running, but people spend a lot of money on GPS watches and shoes and kit and vests. And then maybe they don't go to the physio until they're injured. But if it was all part of the package, then I think it's probably money well spent.
We certainly think so. I think, and then the other thing, I think, and maybe this is more targeted at females than males, I don't know. I've hugely upped protein in my diet. I've been veggie since I was 8. And so protein has always looked like large chunks of cheddar cheese, which has been great. But unfortunately, you get to a point in your life where you can't do that quite like you used to. And then Richard, clearly not me, Richard did a ton of research on what I should be eating. And we read the book Raw, which was really fascinating. I really enjoyed. So, you did laugh about my cottage cheese, but that zero-fat cottage cheese.
It was more the smell. It absolutely wasn't the protein content and the perfection of it. It was more the fact that it would be like your trainers and the cottage cheese.
Yes, it was. So it was about as smelly as the trainers once it had been out as well. So that's been really great. And he's got me on quite a few, and you either buy into the nutritional supplements or you don't. But I think there are some that seem to have made a difference to me. And so he's got me on some of that. So the vitamin D and things we've been now doing for a while. And I'm fairly good about making sure I get the omega-3s in. I have to take them as a supplement. I can't do cod liver oil. And it's that, exactly. But I think it's quite hard on a normal diet to get everything in. Yeah. So he did quite a lot of, and of course I'm going to put the big M word out there, but you get to a certain age as a female and you have to talk about the menopause word. And that creates a chunk of change that you need to factor into training and factor into nutrition. and go with it. You know, once upon a time you sleep like a baby and then suddenly you don't. And it can be quite stressful if you let it get stressful, or you just say, well, when they were tiny, I seemed to manage it, so I'll just carry on now. So it's all of those things. I think it's being accepting of it, which is hard. It's really hard because we all sort of imagined that we were still as speedy as once we were. I won't go out and do track reps anymore. I wouldn't even think about it. I don't think I ever did, but I wouldn't even conceive of doing it now. It's just asking for injury. But what I will do is use the turbo for high heart rate sessions. And I think if there's one thing that's changed this year, it's the fact that I've probably got even fitter, because I've been nailing it on a turbo, and I can nail it on a turbo and not get injured. So my heart rate's been at levels it would never get to running, because I just never risk it. So I think that's made a massive difference.
I've heard that quite often, actually. People can get massive fitness gains on turbo, but maybe then if they're using that when they're injured and when they come back to running, the body's not used to the load that their kind of cardiovascular system take. That's quite common. But yeah, if it's kind of all part of the package to minimize injury risk, then yeah, great.
Well, I think Jim Worsley. I know Jim Worsley.
I think it was the least broken that he's ever been on a Western States, all down to Swift.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's something, it's almost about setting yourself up not to run 6 days a week and actually to factor in those turbos as part of your training and make them the really hard sessions. So I think that's something as we've got older, we do more of.
I think keeping the running as like this parcel wrapped up that you love and that you want to keep forever. And so in order to protect it, you have to add in all these other little bits that give you the ability to run. You cannot just keep running and running because it's going to be taken away from you. You have to put in the weights and put in the cross training, and then running will stay with you as your friend, and you will be able to run for years and years. And I think if you carry on I think in your 20s and 30s, you can, can't you? I mean, joy. But then, yeah, you have to add, and you have to try and find joy in them. And I know we say, yeah, the weight, I mean, there's nothing, I quite enjoy weights personally, because I put on a bit of Rocky and I'm like, yeah. But I think, you can imagine going, I think just focusing on the end goal of the fact that you're out on the trails and healthy, and that all these little bits that you do feed into that, and the longevity, rather than focusing on what you're actually doing that day.
And I think for the ultra people, as in those who are going for those hundreds, Eddie, it's also about factoring in learning how to hike. And people don't learn how to hike. And actually you can move really fast, but it's different muscles. So it is different. So if you can actually, mix the two when you're racing and mix the two seamlessly, it gives those different muscles a rest. And funny enough, I think you can move quite fast.
I give a lot of my older athletes and people coming into ultras as well, everybody hiking in their sessions, but a lot where you mix it up. So one week they won't do a long run at all, and they'll just do hiking and with a backpack, and you go out and because it's all about efficiency and learning how to use your poles, and then all that different muscle work, as you said. And you're absolutely testimony to that you can absolutely smash something on learning to hike like a pro.
I love my weighted vest hike. It's great.
Well, you look like a suicide bomber quietly. Yeah.
It was, yeah, that had been mentioned.
You have to be a bit careful where you go for those hikes, don't you?
Don't go into Tesco's. Don't go all bread.
My friend Neil had an old rucksack with weight in it, and I had this kind of special weighted vest with all these little individual weights, and yeah, it looked a bit suspect.
I know, we've got one of them too. And in fact, we use treadmills for that too. We put on the vest and then hiked uphill when I was coming back, and that was really effective and really hard.
So hard. That's great. That's great UTMB training too. If you're in London, I'm just writing all my London clients UTMB fingers crossed plans, and they've got their weighted vest and the treadmill. 10% off you go. See you in a few hours. Enjoy.
Get your heart rate. Yeah. Explode yourselves. Yeah.
I need to buy a turbo trainer. I think I'm the only one here that hasn't got a turbo trainer.
What bike is a brilliant thing.
Yeah, I don't think I'll swing that past.
I think the other thing, Eddie, that I didn't think about, and again, being an older athlete, is, you know how, and you probably don't know, but your eyesight starts to change. And so when you're trying to nav off a watch, which we all do, it's got a tiny little blue triangle in most cases. You can't see it. Spend your line in your arm. So I'm up on the chariots going, actually can't see it.
Stop it.
It's awful. It's awful. So my next trip is to the opticians, you know, should have gone to Specsavers. It's all that. I am actually going to go and make sure that at night I can see it, because I can't actually physically see it. I had to pull out my phone with its great big backlight to see it. And I know it's crazy, but as an older athlete, you probably don't think about that till it's a bit late.
I'm sad that your superhero goggles didn't have like a special magnifying.
Yeah. Oh, can you imagine if I did that?
A bit that came down. That would have been the end for your girls if you'd gone, and then we pull the magnifying glass down over. I
would have gone from cool mummy to I'm never speaking to you again, mummy. It would be bad.
It won't be long until they're all in the goggles. The GPS will be on your, like a Google goggle.
Yeah.
Well, they have that in skiing now. You can put it down and it's got the piece map and your speed and your heart rate and everything. But that terrifies me because I'd be looking at that.
Yeah.
What's that?
Oh, my nose. So and the head torch, funny enough, is the wrong sort of light.
Because it like reflects off the glass, doesn't it? Yeah, they're no use.
So there you go. One for your UTMB guys who'll be out for 2 nights. Can you see your watch in the middle of the night? Well, it's pretty well marked, so they'll be fine.
All good nuggets.
Keep it on your left. Just keep going.
Should we do the 5 quickie questions?
Yeah, let's do it. Right.
These are quite deep, mind, Anna. So.
Oh no! Oh god.
First one, big one. Tea or coffee?
Oh, I'm coffee every day of the week.
Early bird or night owl?
Definitely early bird.
Would you prefer to run in the rain or the sun?
Oh, definitely the sun.
Rice or pasta?
Rice or pasta? Oh, rice, because I do lentil pasta nowadays.
Oh yeah, I love a bit of lentil pasta too. It's a bit chewy, but
old ladies and protein, it's all good.
I know.
And what was the last movie you watched?
Movie? Yeah. Oh God, it'll be something ultra that Richard shoved on that I will have watched. Probably something like, it was probably The Spine, because it would have been the last thing we watched before we went off to do this race.
Gary will be longing to know, like, what, because you say on your, I know somebody asked you, like, why don't you do Zwift on your turbo? And you're like, no, I don't like it. So what is your, like, Netflix choice when you're on your turbo?
We've done everything. We've done Narcos. We've done all of those Amazon Prime series on all.
So you do some quite high violence on your bike?
Yeah. Oh yeah, high violence.
Really?
Yeah.
I wonder that heart rate's so high.
Chateau as well. Escape to the Chateau has been a good one.
Love it.
So it's a really eclectic mix. And I mean, I've just found Sabrina Verjee's video, or I think Wild Ginger Running's just put something out on her FKT. So Richard has a long list that I forward to him, and then they come out on the turbo. So that's how that all works. We just literally find the things we need to watch that aren't boring with children and put them on the turbo. And at the moment, it's Tour de France every night. What's not to love? 7 o'clock, we're there every night.
I'm actually planning my turbo tonight for the England-Germany game, because I'm I've got 45 minutes to do. First half, second half, can have my tea.
Inspirational or depressing? It could go either way. Who knows?
It'd be good.
Oh, Anna, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. You are incredible. To think that this was only last week and you're back, all systems firing. You're coherent, and you've given us such wonderful little nuggets, as well as making it sound like the most incredible experience. And we can't wait to see you at Lakeland 100 and in the future. And maybe one day we'll get to meet Richard and hear more about the spreadsheets and planning. We'll have to do a whole other separate podcast, Gary.
Yes. He's your man on spreadsheets and planning, definitely.
Good luck with the recovery. Keep it easy. Keep that protein going in.
Take care, Anna. Thanks very much. And hopefully I'll see you on the trails. I'm hoping to be somewhere between Pooley Bridge and Howtown. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, look out. And shout. It's just light by then, so you will actually see me. That's a good thing. I'll look out for someone noisy, Gary, shouting up and down. That sounds good. Excellent.
Fantastic. Thanks very much. Take care.
Lovely to see you both. Cheers. Bye.
That was fascinating to hear about the level of detail. My goodness me, to check what food decays the fastest. that is good
You're
going.
me, Richard. I could do with him sort of like just in my house around the place. Like, how long does this laundry take to dry? Where's the best place to hang it?
Get the spreadsheet out.
Get the spreadsheet out, Richard. Thank you so much, Anna, for giving up your time. And
thanks.
look forward to seeing. Oh, she'll be out doing something else again.
Hopefully, fingers crossed. She's down for the Lakeland 100. So if I get my finger out and get on the dot to find out where people are, I might see her on course at some point. That'd be fantastic.
Get a selfie.
Yeah.
Well, we've got a few races coming up. Your big race.
Yes, in Cuthbert's Way, 100k from Melrose to Holy Island. So
not too much climbing in it.
I think it's about 8,000 feet over 66 miles. So not huge.
Undulating, isn't it?
Yeah, I think people kind of don't give the Chivits the credit they're due as far as the hills are concerned. But yeah, on a not so great day, it's not very nice around there. So fingers crossed the sun's shining at least.
Yeah, what's the forecast like?
It's mixed. I think it's due to rain later on in the day, but the worry is it's in the UK anyway. It's been raining on and off, so it could be quite slippy underfoot. But
what's your shoe of choice?
Oh, well, I would have went with my Terra Ultras, my Innovate, but they've taken a bit of a hammering on the Bob Graham round, so I don't know if Innovate could ship me some freebies. That would be awesome, but that's probably what I'm going to do. Try those. On the Trail Flies, they were good. I wore them on for leg 2 and 3 at the weekend, so one of those two, I think. Definitely one of the Innovates anyway. What else? Oh, I saw this one, the Lakes Sky Ultra from Patterdale, 57k and 4,300 meters of vertical gain, and that takes you over Strides Edge and Swirl's Edge. So watch where you're planting your feet, everybody.
That's so much climbing. That's like something around here.
Yeah. I'm trying to visualize. So Patterdale, obviously, then that's going to go to the kind of Helvellyn area if they go on those two edges. And although they're not, you see some of these sky races where they're literally running along a ridge line. I don't think it's as bad as that. But yeah, if you trip over, you've got a long fall. So be careful, please. Good luck. And beat the tide. I saw this again as I'm just kind of trying to whiz around the country, Eddie. My geography.
Geography in action.
Well, it was the theme of races that are beating the tide. So
I love it. I love your collection this week. Beat the tide 10k down at Worthing and Shoreham. Yeah. I know that. So is it on the beach? Oh, now you're going to say I haven't actually.
It's going to end on the beach, surely.
Surely that's going to end on the beach. Give us a shout if you're doing that one.
Good luck, everybody. What's coming up, Eddie?
Wow. Well, I've got yesterday. I did my. I'd like to say it's my last. Probably is my last eating lactate session, as I called it to my coach. On paper, it like didn't look that hard, but coach prepared me for like, which he's really good at, like the mental, you've got to mentally prepare yourself. This is going to be really hard. Because often if you go into sessions thinking that looks quite easy on paper and then it's really hard, then you're like, why is this so hard?
Yeah. So
20 minutes, I've twittered on about it, the 30-30. So you do 30 seconds steady, 30 seconds hard. Oh, I could do this. Anyway, I was thinking back on it because I started back in May doing 4 minutes of this.
Okay, yeah.
That used to seem like a long time. And now I do 20 minutes.
Yes.
And yeah, my breathing was so shallow by the end of it that the cows were like, what? They were moving out of the way for me. Normally they just stand, they were like, whoa, what is going on? It was really, I literally had to, it started off, I was like, hey, it's good. Yeah, it's good. It's okay. Watch my heart rate. And then by the last 5 minutes, I couldn't even look at my watch. There was like, I just had to nail my eyes on the thing. And then the 20 minutes, I just had to lie down. I was like this. And I thought, is that 20 minutes? How hard that can be. And then I climbed like 400, 500 meters.
Yeah.
So then I had to jog down and I It was really rocky. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to die. And then I was just useless. And then I had to sit on my bike for half an hour in the evening. And I just couldn't even, I was amazed at how much I could destroy myself in 20 minutes. I mean, there was more volume because it's warm up and cool down, but that was hard.
I love it. You are putting the graft in. This is brilliant.
It's got to pay off, Gary.
It will, 100%.
So that was
shoveling the hay in the barn. That is.
I've got so much hay and I can hardly shut the door.
Yeah.
And I've got a little bit of speed tomorrow just to remind the legs because so much of it is uphill, and then another bounding session to do. So a lot of, because I've got a race next weekend. Finally, I can talk about a race. So this week is all about that sort of like sharpening last bit of work, and then next week will be taper and. So yeah, that's what I've got on, keeping the kids alive, hoping it's going to stop raining so that we can actually do something other than looking out the window. When are you going to race? What's the plan?
Friday. Yeah, we're going to go.
Friday.
Yeah, Friday we're going to drive up, Justin and I. We've got to register, I think, in Wooler. And then we're going to camp out. So we're going to get.
Oh, you're camping?
Yes, Friday and Saturday because we finished quite late on the Saturday. So yeah, beers on Holy Island, and then I'll be just crashed out in a campsite in Wooler somewhere.
And then the next race is when? Have you got a little bit of?
There's no race. There's Sean Kennedy's Bob Graham round 10, but the next race is
London
Marathon, yeah. And you're training. I'm a bit worried, Eddie, actually. I don't think I can go into the hurt locker like you do.
I can get you a key. We can start you slowly, but I do think that a lot of it, I've got such a big endurance background from now 20 plus years of doing endurance sport that I have to do these hard sessions, and I do love them. I mean, I'm not you're always like, but Eddie, you do this, but I'm like, I love those sessions. Yeah. If I don't get like a couple of those in a week, I'm like,
oh, that's brilliant. I can do them with company on my own.
Yeah, it's very hard. I do wish that I had, funnily enough, no one wants to do them with me. I often imagine I have company and like see people,
the cows,
see people in the distance. But then I think, just like I've been thinking about having the kids and trying to juggle everything, I think it's all good mental strength and grit. Yeah. And I'm like, if you can push yourself that hard when you're by yourself, I just have to now do it in a race and not back out in a race and go, oh no, it's too hard. I know. Total digression, but did you watch any of the Golden Trail series? Did you watch any of their Facebook Live on the Marathon?
No, I didn't know.
Well, it's worth looking. If you haven't watched it, it's up on their Facebook page now. You can just dip in and you can see, which I think is brilliant, how much the elites hurt themselves.
Oh, yes.
Which I love, because you don't see that. You see them and they are going up those hills harder. And then you can tell as the positions drop off, people start to look a little bit more like they're slightly enjoying it.
They're not taking selfies, are they, and stuff like that?
Well, pretty much. There's less of the death face going on. But yeah, I would advise anybody that wants to see how to run those trail outros. Not only the going up, but watching them coming downhill is incredible.
We can see on the Tour de France, they were working. I was watching that the other day, and they were grafting up the mountain. I was going to say hill there. It was probably a mountain.
I love the graft. Best of luck this weekend. Take it easy. Keep eating. Keep smiling.
Will do.
Got
Thank
this.
You. Well, we'll find out next week, won't we? Right, this week we have a great competition for you guys. If we'd like you to head over to YouTube, our YouTube channel is Run to the Hills. If you search for Run to the Hills, you might find the heavy metal band Iron Maiden. But yeah, have a deeper dive and you'll see the Run to the Hills channel. And what we're going to do, we'd love you to subscribe or follow the Run to the Hills YouTube channel. And also on episodes 45 and 46, if you could just comment with the word Chia Charge, I can then filter out and see who's actually entered the competition. We're going to check those entries and decide on a winner at random on July the 27th. So you have from this Friday until July the 27th to go over to YouTube, subscribe, follow, and comment. Thanks very much, everybody. Oh, yes. And you'll win a box of Chia Charge goodies.
Hope you enjoyed episode 45 of Run to the Hills. I'm going to end it in a much more professional stance than I started it, Gary. That was episode 45. I'm Eddie Sutton.
And I'm Gary Thwaites.
And let's run to the hills.